Hello again, dear friend. Come rest here beside me for a moment. Imagine a quiet porch with a soft breeze rustling through the garden. Leaves a worn but familiar chair beneath you and a warm mug nestled in your hands. The sun is just beginning to stretch across the yard, touching every flower, every pot, every old treasure you've lovingly placed just so. You don't need youth to create beauty, and you certainly don't need to spend a fortune. All you need truly is a touch of imagination and a heart that still finds joy in simple things. You see, the magic of a garden isn't in how expensive the decor is or how perfect the tools are. It's in the stories, your stories, that live inside the things you've saved, repurposed, or discovered at a quiet little thrift shop. That chipped teacup that once sat on your mother's table, it can hold a succulent now. The window shutter your neighbor nearly threw away, it might become the backdrop for your favorite hanging flowers. The spoon from your wedding set, just one, can catch sunlight when it dangles gently from a homemade wine chime. Every object holds a memory, and every garden becomes more beautiful when those memories are allowed to bloom. Today, I'd love to walk with you gently, slowly through more than 20 heartfelt ideas to turn what some may call junk into garden magic. These are simple, accessible projects you can do on a table or from a porch chair. Many use what you already have. Others cost just a few dollars from the thrift store or Dollar Tree. But every single one of them carries the same message: you are still growing. You are still glowing. And your hands can still make the world a more beautiful place. So let's begin, not with big plans, but with small joys. Let's make something wonderful together. Remember those pretty little tea tins from years past? Maybe you bought one just because it had roses on the label. Or perhaps someone gifted it to you during a holiday filled with Earl Grey or chamomile. They're too lovely to throw out, and now they're ready for a second life. These tins, often overlooked or tucked away in a cupboard, make charming little planters, especially for those of us who prefer to garden without too much bending or heavy lifting. Their size is perfect for small herbs, trailing ivy, or dainty flowers like violas and pansies. And when you stack them on a sturdy stepladder or shelf, they become a vertical garden full of vintage charm. To begin, take your tea tins and gently tap a few holes in the bottom using a hammer and nail for drainage. If your hands aren't as strong these days, you can use a cordless screwdriver or simply line the bottom with pebbles instead. Fill each tin with a bit of potting soil and nestle your plant inside. No need to buy anything new, just use cuttings or small starts from your existing garden. Arrange the tins however you like. 3 in a row on a low table, or several climbing up a tiered rack you found for a few dollars at the thrift shop. They're light enough to move easily, even from a seated position. And if you don't have a rack, even a few placed along a sunny windowsill or porch rail will do. You might even group them by color: blue tins for lavender, red ones for bright geraniums, yellow for lemon thyme. It becomes a little storybook of your garden told in soft metal and blooming petals. And when someone asks, "Where did you get that planter?" you can smile and say, "Oh, that used to hold tea." Because just like us, these tins may be older, but they still hold something warm and beautiful inside. Still useful, still graceful, still growing. Do you remember the days when picture frames held school portraits, wedding photos, or pressed flowers behind glass? Maybe there's a box of them somewhere in your home, mismatched, scratched, some without their backs, others without the glass. They're often the kind of things we hesitate to throw away, even when they no longer serve their original purpose. But in the garden, an empty frame becomes something magical. You can think of it as a window into your outdoor world, a decorative piece that turns a simple wall or fence into something poetic. And the best part? There's no lifting, no digging, and no need for fancy tools. Just a bit of twine or a few screws, and you've created a visual story on your garden wall. Start by finding 2 or 3 frames at the thrift store or in your attic. They don't need to match. In fact, a mix of shapes and styles adds charm. Remove any remaining glass or backing carefully, leaving only the outer frame. If the wood is chipped, don't worry, a little sanding or even a gentle dry brush with white paint can give it that soft, cottage-worn look we all love. Once your frames are ready, simply attach them to your fence, a trellis, or even lean them against a brick wall. If you'd like to add extra magic, tie a small bundle of dried lavender or a sprig of rosemary to one corner with twine, or hang a tiny thrifted wreath or bell from the top of the frame, letting it sway gently in the breeze. If you're feeling especially creative, use the frame to surround a favorite potted plant. It draws the eye and makes your flowers feel like a painting come to life. And since it all happens at eye level or above, there's no need to kneel or strain. What once held memories indoors now frames the quiet beauty of your garden, sunlight glinting off leaves, birds dancing on branches, and petals nodding in the breeze. It's a reminder that not everything has to be filled to be full of meaning. Sometimes the space in between the view through the frame is the most beautiful part of all. Do you still have that old metal colander, the one that rattled around in the back of the cupboard for years? Maybe it once drained spaghetti for family dinners or berries from your garden on warm afternoons. Now, with the handle a little loose and the color worn thin, it may seem like it's had its day. But don't be so sure. That humble colander is ready to take flight quite literally as a hanging basket full of flowers or trailing herbs, turning your patio into a page from a storybook. The beauty of using a colander as a planter lies in its built-in drainage. You don't have to poke or drill a thing, the holes are already there. And because it's lightweight and bowl-shaped, it's easy to lift, easy to hang, and just the right size for small garden delights. To begin, choose a colander. Any size will do, though the larger ones give you more room to play. Line it with a bit of coconut fiber burlap or even a scrap of an old pillowcase. This will hold the soil while still letting water escape. Fill it with a lightweight potting mix and choose your plants, trailing lobelia, bright pansies, or even a mix of kitchen herbs like thyme, basil, and parsley. Use twine, sturdy string, or a chain. You can often find old hanging basket chains at the thrift store to create 3 evenly spaced supports. Tie them securely to the colander's handles or rims and gather them together at the top in a loop for hanging. Then find a hook on your porch shepherd's pole or a tree branch within reach. There's no need to lift it high, chest height is perfect. That way you can water it with ease, admire the blooms up close, and breathe in the scent of fresh herbs or flowers without bending over. And when the breeze passes through the garden, your colander basket sways gently, a reminder that old things can dance again given the chance. Once it held dinner, now it holds beauty. Do you remember that creaky old chair in the corner of the garage? Maybe the seat gave out years ago, or one leg started to wobble after too many winters on the porch. Still, you couldn't bring yourself to toss it. It held too many memories of family gatherings, long phone calls, or afternoons with a good book and a glass of iced tea. Well, that chair has another chapter to write, one filled with blossoms and charm. When a wooden chair loses its seat, it doesn't lose its usefulness. It simply finds a new role as a pedestal planter that brings flowers up where you can see them, smell them, and water them with ease. No squatting, no bending, no strain. Just beauty at your fingertips. Start by cleaning the chair, giving it a light scrub, or a fresh coat of paint if you'd like. You don't need to make it perfect. The age is part of the charm. If the seat is missing or broken, that's exactly what you want. You can place a medium-sized planter or bowl right where the cushion once was. An old enamel basin, a thrifted flower pot, or even a mixing bowl with a few drainage holes will fit snugly into that open space. Fill your chosen vessel with soil, and select plants that spill gently over the sides, trailing petunias, ivy, or even cascading cherry tomatoes for a functional twist. If you'd like, tie a ribbon or a strip of old fabric around the chair back. Drape a tiny sign on it, hand-painted with words like bloom or joy. The whole piece becomes a little moment, a display of care and memory and imagination. Place your chair planter anywhere you want to bring life, by the front door, under a window, or at the edge of a shaded path. It stands tall and proud, offering beauty without effort. And every time you pass by, you'll remember even when something loses its seat, it can still hold something wonderful. Just like you, dear friend, still standing, still blooming. Maybe you've got a drawer in your kitchen filled with mismatched silverware, a spoon from your wedding set, a bent fork from a picnic long ago, a tarnished butter knife that no longer has its match. They may not set a formal table anymore, but they still hold a kind of quiet grace. And with just a little time and tenderness, they can be turned into something truly special. A silverware wind chime that catches the light and the breeze, singing a soft song across your garden. To begin, gather 4 or 5 old utensils. They don't need to match. In fact, the more character, the better. You'll also need a sturdy base to hang them from. A wooden spoon with a drilled handle, a small piece of driftwood, or even a thrifted kitchen rack works beautifully. Using fishing line twine or thin jewelry wire tie each piece of silverware to the base, spacing them out evenly so they have room to sway and tap against one another. If tying knots is tricky on the hands, consider using small key rings or simple metal hooks for easier attachment. For a gentle touch of color or whimsy, thread a few glass beads or buttons in between or tie on strips of lace or ribbon. You don't have to make it perfect, let it feel handmade, a patchwork of time and memory. Once complete, hang your wind chime where it can catch the breeze but remain within reach, maybe from a shepherd's hook, a branch above your favorite bench, or beside the back door. Every gentle gust will send it into motion, a soft, clinking melody that feels like a whisper from the past. And on those quiet mornings when you're sipping your tea and the world is just beginning to stir, you'll hear the gentle music of old silver, proof that things can still shine and still sing even after their place at the table has changed. Just like us, dear friend, a little worn, a little weathered, but still full of music. Do you remember those old rubber rain boots by the back door? Maybe they belonged to your grandson, who once stomped through puddles with delight. Or maybe they were yours, worn during morning walks through wet grass, muddy flower beds, or quiet rainy afternoons with a garden trowel in hand. Now, cracked at the seams or outgrown by time, those boots may no longer keep your feet dry. But they can still hold something far more colorful, a burst of blooming petunias, pansies, or herbs right at your doorstep. Rain boots make wonderful upright planters, especially for those who prefer not to bend or stoop. They're tall, roomy, and already waterproof. And there's something joyful, even a little whimsical, about flowers growing from something once used for splashing in the rain. To begin, give the boots a gentle rinse. If they don't have drainage holes in the bottom, poke 2 or 3 with a screwdriver or sharp knife, or simply layer some small pebbles at the bottom if you prefer not to cut into the rubber. Then fill each boot about 3/4 full with potting soil. Choose cheerful, low-maintenance plants like petunias, which drape gently over the edge and bloom generously through the season. Marigolds also work beautifully, and so do herbs like mint and oregano. If your boots are brightly colored, you can let the flowers complement or contrast the shade. Yellow boots with purple blooms, delightful. Red boots with trailing white alyssum, pure summer magic. Line the boots in pairs near the porch or tuck them beside your garden path. They can also be placed atop small stools or plant stands to lift them higher, making them even easier to tend. You might even tie a small tag or ribbon around one, a quiet tribute to the child who once wore them or to the gardener you've always been. And every time you pass by, these blooming boots will remind you that even well-worn things, even things a little cracked and crooked, can bring life, laughter, and beauty into the world once more. Because joy often blooms in the most unexpected places. Once upon a time, that old metal filing cabinet held tax returns, recipes, or maybe even your children's school drawings. It sat faithfully in the corner of an office or hallway, quietly keeping the paper trail of a life well lived. Now it's rusty, a little dented, maybe missing a drawer or two, and yet it still has structure, space, and potential. That forgotten cabinet, dear friend, can rise again, not in an office, but in your garden as a vertical tower of greenery and growth. This idea is perfect for anyone working with a small patio or limited space. It also happens to be very kind to the knees and back, since you're gardening at different levels, not just from the ground up. A vertical garden like this gives you access to color and freshness within arm's reach. Start by removing the drawers. Some people choose to leave 1 or 2 partially in place to act as planting trays. If your cabinet is tall, tip it onto its back so the drawer slots face up like deep planter boxes. If it's shorter and sturdier, you can stand it up and use the exposed compartments for cascading plants. Give it a quick scrub. And if you're feeling creative, a fresh coat of outdoor spray paint in a cheerful color, soft green, sunny yellow, or whatever feels like you. Add drainage holes in each drawer slot or base using a cordless drill, or simply place smaller pots inside each section which can be removed easily for watering. Now comes the fun part, choosing what to grow. You could plant herbs like basil, thyme, and parsley in the top drawers for easy snipping. Trailing vines like sweet potato vine or nasturtiums work beautifully in lower sections. You might even reserve one drawer for cheerful blooms and another for leafy greens. Place your cabinet tower against a fence by the porch or beside a sunny wall. It takes up hardly any space, yet brings vertical beauty and abundance. And every time you water it, you'll be reminded life is full of second chances. Even a filing cabinet once full of paper can bloom with life. And so can we. Remember those narrow little picture ledges? The ones that used to hold framed photos, travel souvenirs, or small knickknacks on a hallway wall. Maybe you took them down during a home refresh, or maybe you found one at a thrift store for $1 or $2. Flat and simple, they might not look like much at first. But oh, how lovely they can become a bird-friendly addition to your garden that brings color, song, and life right up where you can enjoy it without stooping or straining. These ledges, often just a few inches deep with a small front lip, make perfect little feeding shelves when mounted on a fence porch railing or even propped up on bricks. They're easy to reach, easy to refill, and a beautiful way to invite nature a little closer to your quiet mornings. To turn one into a feeder, give it a wipe down, and if it's wooden, you might seal it with an outdoor safe finish to help it last longer. Then mount it at a comfortable height using nail screws or weather-safe adhesive strips, whatever feels most accessible to you. If you prefer not to lift tools at all, place the ledge flat on an outdoor table or shelf that's already there. Sprinkle birdseed right along the ledge, or set out small shallow dishes or teacups with seed or water. If you're able, tuck a few sprigs of rosemary or lavender nearby to add fragrance and a gentle cottage look. In a matter of hours, you may have curious visitors, sparrows, finches, cardinals, each arriving with a flutter of wings and a whisper of song. Place a comfortable chair nearby, and you've got your own little bird-watching corner full of soft movement and joyful surprises. You can even rotate the display one week with birdseed the next, with tiny pots of succulents or baby herbs. It's a gentle way to bring more life into your garden. No loud colors, no gadgets, just a quiet shelf for sharing where the old becomes new again and the small becomes sacred. Because beauty isn't always loud. Sometimes it's just a songbird pausing on a thrifted ledge. Maybe you've seen them at the thrift store, those old glass light fixture covers like the kind that once hung from the ceiling of a hallway or glowed gently above a kitchen sink. Some are round like globes, others fluted like flower petals. On their own, they may not seem like much anymore, especially without the hardware or bulbs. But these forgotten glass covers are little treasures in disguise. Because with just a bit of soil and love, they can become peaceful terrariums, tiny indoor jungles, or outdoor fairy gardens that shimmer in the sunlight and remind us of nature's quiet magic. To begin, select a fixture cover with an opening wide enough to nestle plants inside. If it's closed on the top, simply flip it upside down to create a dome effect over a shallow dish or plate. If it has an open bottom, it's ready to hold a miniature garden just as it is. Start by placing a layer of small rocks or gravel in the base for drainage, followed by a scoop of potting soil. Add tiny plants like moss baby succulents or slow-growing vines. You can even tuck in a small figurine, a bird, a toadstool, or a stone with a word like peace etched on it. If your hands are unsteady, use a spoon to arrange the contents gently. There's no need to rush. This is a moment to savor. Once your plants are in place, gently lower the glass fixture over the top if you're using it as a dome. The curved shape holds in just enough humidity to keep the plants cozy, and the glass itself catches the light in a way that feels almost enchanted. Set it on a porch table, a windowsill, or a plant stand where it's easy to admire, no kneeling required. These terrariums aren't just decoration. They're reminders that growth doesn't always require open fields or big effort. Sometimes a few inches of space, a little water, and a second-hand find are all it takes. Because beauty like light finds its way through the smallest cracks, even in an old glass shade that once lit your kitchen, now glowing softly with green life. Maybe you've helped carry an old metal bed frame too squeaky or too rusty to sleep on anymore. Or perhaps it was a piece left behind when the kids moved out the headboard, leaning lonely against the garage wall. But before you think of hauling it to the dump, take one more look, not as a bed, but as a trellis. Yes, dear friend, that sturdy headboard or footboard with its iron scrollwork or wooden slats can become a storybook trellis, a place where flowers climb vines, wander, and memories linger. One of the loveliest things about using a bed frame in the garden is its height. There's no need to dig or stoop. Just lean it gently against a wall or fence, or press it into the ground a few inches if it's light enough. If the frame is heavy, keep it freestanding by anchoring the feet with bricks or placing it behind raised containers. You don't have to do much else. Paint is optional. A little rust adds character. But if you'd like to add a splash of cheer, try a soft pastel sage green butter yellow, or even a warm white. Use a brush or a spray can, whatever your hands feel most comfortable with. Then plant something gentle at the base. Morning glories are wonderful climbers and bloom with joy. So do clematis sweet peas or even cherry tomatoes if you'd like to mix beauty with bounty. Over time, the plants will wind through the rails and curves, creating a living tapestry that grows more lovely by the week. You might even hang something from the frame, a small lantern, a thrifted teacup filled with birdseed, or a sign painted with your garden's name. Nana's Nook, perhaps. Or simply still growing. And every time you pass by, you'll be reminded that even something built for rest and sleep can rise again with purpose. It doesn't have to hold a mattress to hold beauty. Just like you, dear one, not bound by roles or years gone by, but still reaching toward the light. Because even old frames can become windows for the soul to bloom through. Perhaps there's an old saucepan tucked away in your kitchen cabinet. The kind you used to stir oatmeal in on chilly mornings or warm up soup when someone was under the weather. Its handle might be loose now or the bottom too scorched to use on the stove. But in the garden, it's still got plenty of heart left. With just a little imagination, that weary little saucepan becomes a charming, succulent pocket, perfect for tabletops, railing shelves, or anywhere you'd like a low-maintenance dash of green. Succulents are ideal for small containers like these. They don't need deep soil, and they thrive on a little bit of neglect, which makes them perfect for gentle gardening, especially if your hands tire easily or you prefer to sit while tending to your plants. To start, make sure the pan is clean. If you'd like drainage, add a few small holes to the bottom using a hammer and nail, or simply layer pebbles or gravel inside before adding soil. Choose a cactus or succulent mix, which drains well and keeps the roots happy. Then nestle in one or two small succulents. Hens and chicks, sedum or jade are all wonderful choices. If the handle is still attached, use it to tilt the pan slightly in your display for a whimsical effect. Or remove the handle entirely and use the base as a mini bowl planter. You can even tie a ribbon or jute string around the handle for a little farmhouse charm. Place your saucepan on a bench windowsill or beside your favorite chair on the porch. It doesn't need much water, just a gentle misting now and then. And it doesn't shout for attention. Instead, it quietly holds space for life, for memory, for the satisfaction of making something lovely out of something forgotten. Because, dear friend, like many things in life, it's not the shine on the outside that matters. It's what you hold within. And even a scorched old pan once forgotten in the back of a cabinet can become a cradle for something quietly beautiful. Still warm, still giving, still growing. Do you remember those wooden shutters that once flanked the windows of old farmhouses or bungalows? They stood like guardians, opening to let in light, closing to hold back storms. Maybe you salvaged a pair during a remodel years ago, or spotted them leaning against a wall at the thrift store, weathered and worn. Don't pass them by, because those shutters, aged and chipped as they may be, are perfect for a vertical flower display that brings cottage charm to any outdoor corner. The beauty of shutters is that they're tall, slender, and already designed to catch the eye. And the slats, though, made to block sunlight, now become perfect pockets for creativity. Start by gently cleaning the shutters, brushing off old cobwebs and dust. If the paint is flaking, you can leave it for a rustic look or lightly sand and repaint them in soft garden tones, faded mint, sunflower yellow, or a gentle sky blue. Once clean, lean the shutter vertically against a fence wall or garden shed. No heavy mounting needed. If you prefer something more stable, a single nail or garden hook near the top will help anchor it in place. Then tuck small potted plants into the slats. Plastic nursery pots work well, especially for lightweight blooms like pansies, sweet alyssum, or baby ferns. You can also attach mini tin buckets or mason jars with wire or ribbon, each filled with herbs or trailing flowers. If lifting is difficult, arrange everything while the shutter is lying flat, then gently tip it upright with help. As the plants grow and spill over their tiny containers, the shutter becomes a living curtain of color, soft petals, trailing vines, and maybe even the hum of bees or the flutter of a butterfly's wing. This kind of display doesn't require bending or digging. It brings your garden upward into view, into reach, especially if you're working with a small patio or limited mobility. And every time you pass it, you'll be reminded that protection and beauty often live in the same frame. The shutter once shielded light. Now it shares it. Still strong, still useful, still blooming with grace. You may have seen one, an old metal birdcage, perhaps white and a little rusted, sitting lonely on a thrift store shelf. Once it held a feathered friend chirping by the window. Or maybe it was simply decorative, filled with silk flowers long since faded. Either way, it's easy to walk past, unless you know its secret. That delicate little cage deer friend can become a haven of green, a charming herb garden that's both functional and full of storybook charm. Bird cages are naturally suited for upcycling. They're airy vertical and often come with a little door or hook for hanging. And when repurposed for plants, they invite you to slow down, to touch the leaves gently, and to breathe in the quiet joy of tending something living. To begin, clean the birdcage and check that the bottom is stable. If it's missing, no trouble, simply place a small shallow tray or pot inside to act as a base. Line it with moss or coconut coir if you'd like a natural look. Fill the container with a lightweight potting mix and add your herbs: sweet basil, lemon, thyme, peppermint, or any favorite you enjoy snipping for tea or cooking. If the birdcage has multiple levels or perches, tuck small pots onto each one, or weave in faux nesting touches like dried straw or bark to blend with nature. You might even tie a handwritten plant tag to the bars with twine, lavender, oregano, peace. Once planted, set the cage on a table or hang it from a shepherd's hook at eye level. That way there's no bending required and you can easily reach in for a leaf or two when the mood strikes. The scent alone is enough to lift the heart on a quiet morning. It may no longer house birdsong, but it can cradle life in a different way. Now leaves brushing the bars, roots gently spreading sunlight, warming the metal each day. And as you water it, as you rub a mint leaf between your fingers and breathe in its cool sweetness, you'll feel it too, that sense of freedom, of transformation. Even cages, it turns out, can become gardens. Yarsa. Once upon a time, this little garden helper kept your hose from tangling across the yard. You might have wheeled it out every morning, watering roses and tomatoes while the sun was still low and golden. Now, though the plastic is faded or the metal is a little rusted, the hose is long gone and the reel, it just sits there unsure of its purpose. But not anymore. With just a few thoughtful touches, that old hose reel, yes, even the bulky kind, can become a charming, lightweight side table for your garden or porch. It's a perfect little perch for your teacup seed packets or a tiny potted plant. And the best part, it requires almost no lifting or building at all. Begin by checking that the hose reel base is stable. Most are circular and already at a pleasant height for seated use. If the top surface is uneven, simply lay a round tray wooden cutting board or even a thrifted pizza pan across the top to create a flat tabletop. A dab of outdoor adhesive or a bit of twine around the edges can help keep it secure, though you might enjoy keeping it loose so it's easy to remove and clean. From there, the transformation is in the details. You could add a small cloth or piece of vintage lace across the top, or even paint the reel base to match your garden's color palette: soft sage cream or dusty rose, all work beautifully. You might tuck a few smooth stones or shells inside the reel's inner ring if it's hollow, or use that space to store gloves, seed packets, or extra twine. Place your new side table beside a garden bench near your favorite potted plants, or on the porch beside a rocking chair. Suddenly, it's not just a forgotten tool, it's a place to rest your mug, your thoughts, and your morning dreams. And when visitors ask where you got such a clever little table, you can smile softly and say, "It used to be for the hose." Just like so many things in life, its usefulness didn't end, it simply changed shape. Because what once unwound now helps hold stillness. And there's a quiet kind of beauty in that. There's something comforting about a mason jar, isn't there? You may have used them for jam making in the summertime or for keeping buttons, nails, or bits of string tucked safely away. They lined pantry shelves, clinked softly in dishwater, and caught sunlight on windowsills. Sturdy, simple, always ready. Now, these familiar jars can offer another kind of warmth, not for the belly this time, but for the spirit, as gentle candle lanterns that glow softly through the garden at twilight. Creating them is as easy as it is satisfying. Start by gathering one or more mason jars. Any size will do. You might have a few at home already, or you can pick them up for pennies at the thrift store. Clean them well and decide whether you'd like to leave them clear or frost the glass for a softer glow. A little diluted white paint, or even a glue and water mixture dabbed with a sponge gives a lovely aged look. Next, pour a layer of small pebbles, sand, or glass beads into the bottom of each jar. This gives your candle a stable base and adds a bit of sparkle. Then place a battery-operated tea light votive candle, or citronella candle, in the center. If you prefer, you can use solar-powered lights. Many fit perfectly inside and recharge during the day. To add a touch of personality, wrap a ribbon, jute string, or lace around the jar's neck. You might tuck in a sprig of lavender or rosemary, or even a small tag with a word that speaks to you: hope, rest, light. Now for placement. These lanterns shine beautifully along a garden path, on porch steps, or hanging from sturdy branches or shepherd's hooks. You can even place them in old wire baskets or hang them from thrifted plant stands. No bending, no wires, just a gentle glow where you need it most. And when the sun begins to dip and the first star peeks out, you'll see them flicker not brightly, but warmly, like the soft memories that linger in your garden, like the light that still lives in your hands. Because sometimes, dear friend, all it takes to brighten the dark is a simple jar and a little love. There's something quietly magical about mirrors. They catch the light, reflect movement, and make even the smallest space feel more open, more alive. You may have one tucked away in a closet, its frame chipped or its silver backing a little faded. Or maybe you spot one at the thrift store for just a few dollars, forgotten behind stacks of picture frames. Now imagine pairing that mirror with a set of old wooden shutters and placing the whole thing in your garden. Suddenly you don't just have a mirror, you have a window into another world. To begin, gather a mirror that isn't too heavy, something no larger than a cabinet door ideally. Clean the glass gently and reinforce the frame if needed. Then find a set of thrifted shutters. Weathered ones with peeling paint are even better. Lay the shutters open like wings on either side of the mirror and attach them with small hinges or even strong adhesive if drilling feels too tricky. Or simply place them together as a loose display without permanent fixing. Once assembled, this piece can lean gently against a garden wall, fence, or even the side of a shed. You don't need to hang at high hip height, or even seated eye level is perfect. The mirror will catch glimpses of flowers, sky, and movement, creating the illusion of depth as if your garden goes on and on. To soften the look, drape a climbing vine across the shutters. Morning glory, sweet peas, or even a strand of faux ivy from the dollar store will do. You might hang a small lantern from one side, or paint a soft word on the shutters: grow, welcome, or breathe. Every time you pass it, the reflection shifts, showing a new corner of your space, a new moment in the day. It feels like a doorway, even though it doesn't open. It feels like a promise. And the truth is, we all carry a little of that mirror magic. We reflect, we remember, we make the world feel larger, not through noise, but through presence. So let your mirror and shutters stand quietly in your garden. Let them double the beauty around you. Let them remind you that what you see is only the beginning. Think back to that old dresser you once had, the one that held socks and scarves, linens, and lullabies. Maybe it belonged to your grandmother, or maybe it was your first real piece of furniture. Over time, drawers began to stick, the handles wore thin, and eventually it was retired to the garage or given away. But those drawers, they're far from done, because each one can become a delightful raised bed, easy to reach, easy to move, and rich with charm. Drawer boxes are just the right depth for shallow-rooted vegetables, herbs, or cheerful bedding plants. And best of all, you can place them on top of benches, cinder blocks, or even an old table, bringing your garden right up to you. To start, choose drawers that are still fairly sturdy. If the bottoms are weak, you can reinforce them by adding a second layer of wood or even gluing a piece of cardboard or foam board underneath. Drill a few small drainage holes in the bottom or line them with stones and coffee filters to keep roots happy and healthy. Then paint or decorate however you like. Leave the original wood for a rustic feel or coat them in bright garden colors: turquoise, lavender, soft cream. If you enjoy small touches, stencil on words like lettuce grow or herb haven. Add drawer knobs from the thrift store if any are missing, or tie on little fabric bows for whimsy. Once prepared, fill each drawer with a good quality potting mix and plant away. Try leaf lettuces, kale, and spinach for an edible garden. Or create a floral display with marigold, snapdragons, and alyssum. The low depth keeps watering light and lifting easy. Set the drawers atop whatever height works best for you, bricks an old bench, or even stacking drawers too high for extra elevation. Group them together like a patchwork quilt, each box its own little garden square. And when you sit beside them watching bees flit from bloom to bloom, you'll feel it, the deep satisfaction of growing something with your hands. Not from expensive kits, not from store-bought beds, but from the quiet transformation of what once was. A drawer full of folded things, now unfolded into life. Because, dear friend, even empty drawers can still hold hope. Do you remember those wire baskets? The ones that used to hang in pantries or closets holding fruit yarn, maybe even a pair of garden gloves or two. They are often overlooked now, a bit bent, a little rusted, stacked in corners of thrift stores waiting for another purpose. And oh, what a purpose they can serve. With just a few thoughtful touches, these humble wire baskets can become a beautiful, accessible vertical garden, one that blooms at eye level right where you can see and tend to it without bending or straining. To begin, gather a few medium-sized wire baskets. You might already have them lying around, or you can find them at second-hand shops for just $1 or $2. Look for ones with flat backs or shapes that can sit flush against a surface. You'll also need a fenced garden wall or railing to attach them to. If lifting is difficult, you can mount them low or ask for a helping hand just once to get them set up. Line each basket with coconut coir moss or even an old dish towel to keep soil in place. Then fill with lightweight potting mix and choose plants that stay tidy and compact. Think herbs like oregano, thyme, or chives, or cheerful flowers like pansies and violas. Secure the baskets with zip ties, screws, or S-hooks, depending on your surface. Space them out like little garden shelves, 3 across or one beneath another like the pages of a story unfolding. If watering is tricky, use a small watering can with a long spout, or add a bit of mulch to retain moisture. Over time, the baskets will fill out, softening their metal edges with life and color. You might even weave a bit of ribbon through one or clip on a vintage brooch or tag with the plant's name. A place for rosemary, a pocket of marigolds, a corner where basil leans toward the morning sun. And when you walk past or sit nearby with your tea, you'll notice how beautifully these old baskets carry new things. Not yarn, not gloves, but fragrance light, and a little touch of joy. Because even the things once meant to hold can help things grow. You've seen them before, those long aluminum rain gutters once used to carry water away from rooftops. Maybe you've even replaced yours recently, setting the old ones aside, unsure what to do with them. They're plain utilitarian. Nothing special. But that's the beauty of it. Because with just a little vision and care, those very gutters can become a stunning space-saving garden along your fence, filled with herbs, strawberries, or trailing flowers, all within reach, all without the need for digging or kneeling. This project is wonderfully friendly for smaller patios or for those who prefer to garden standing or sitting on a nearby bench. It turns any bare fence or wall into a layered ribbon of life. Start by cutting the gutter into sections if needed. Around 3 to 4 feet is manageable. If you're picking one up at the thrift store or a salvage yard, ask for the lighter vinyl variety, which is easier to handle. Drill a few small drainage holes along the bottom and cap the ends with inexpensive gutter end pieces or even cork stones or folded mesh. Now attach the gutter sections to your fence or railing at a comfortable height. Use strong zip ties, brackets, or even twine if you're anchoring to lattice or wooden supports. Space them out vertically. If you'd like a tiered effect, it's like building a wall of green one step at a time. Fill each gutter with potting soil and select shallow-rooted plants. Leafy greens like lettuce or arugula do wonderfully here, as do herbs like cilantro, dill, and parsley. Or for a touch of sweetness, plant trailing strawberries. Watching their red berries peek over the edge is a quiet kind of joy. You can even decorate the gutters if the mood strikes with a stencil, a hand-painted word like harvest or grateful, or by wrapping the outer edge with jute or ribbon. This gentle transformation doesn't ask much. It's not loud or flashy, but it takes what once funneled away rain and turns it into something that welcomes life quietly, simply, beautifully. Because just like us, sometimes it's not about what you carry away. It's about what you help grow. We all have one, that old plastic laundry basket that once carried clothes from the line to the folding table. Maybe the handles are cracked now or the base sags a bit. It might have been tucked into a corner of the shed waiting for the next load. That never came. But who says it can't carry something else? With a little imagination, that same basket can become a cozy, upright garden ideal for herbs, flowers, or even vegetables, especially if you'd prefer to garden while seated or standing. Here's how to begin. Choose a basket with plenty of ventilation holes, the kind you'd normally see in a laundry room. If the bottom is uneven, you can stabilize it by placing it on bricks or an old wooden crate. Line the inside of the basket with coconut coir burlap or even an old pillowcase. This keeps the soil from spilling while still allowing water to drain, a perfect low-maintenance setup. Next, fill it with lightweight potting soil and begin planting. You can choose bright flowers like zinnias or marigolds, or stick with fragrant herbs such as basil, oregano, and thyme. Because the basket structure is tall and round, the plants naturally spill over the sides, creating a soft cascading effect that looks just as charming as any store-bought planter. And here's the beauty of it: no digging in the ground, no heavy lifting. The basket can sit beside your porch chair along the path, or even up on a table if you want your garden right at eye level. To give it a finishing touch, consider weaving a ribbon through the holes or tying a handwritten label on the handle with twine, something simple like Nana's Garden or Little Basket of Joy. You might even tuck a solar light into the center for a warm evening glow. And when the blooms begin to spill and sway in the breeze, you'll smile, not because it was expensive or trendy, but because you gave new life to something most would overlook. Just like us, dear friend. That old basket still has so much to carry. And this time it carries joy. Once they sat on a dining room table, tall, sturdy candle holders cradling soft flames during quiet dinners or holiday gatherings. Maybe you still have a few tucked away in a box, or perhaps you passed by some at the thrift store, a little dusty, a little wobbly, but full of shape and potential. Now they're ready to stand tall again, not with wax and wick, but with petals and greenery. With just a touch of care, these old candle holders can be transformed into graceful plant pedestals, adding vertical charm to your garden or patio. Choose candle holders that have broad, stable bases. The heavier, the better, especially if you'll be placing them outdoors. You can leave them as is for a vintage look, or give them a fresh coat of paint in soft garden hues, robin's egg blue, mossy green, or creamy ivory. Next, take small flower pots, the kind that fit snugly where a candle once stood, and nestle them on top. You can use terracotta painted tin or even plastic pots dressed up with ribbon or lace. Secure them with a bit of waterproof adhesive if needed, or simply let gravity and balance do the work if they feel steady. Plant low-growing blooms like violas, petunias, or trailing baby's breath. For a practical twist, try small herbs, thyme, chives, or mint, so you can pluck a few leaves while sipping tea nearby. These elevated plants are easy to reach, making them perfect for seniors who prefer not to bend or crouch. Arrange your candle holder pedestals in a trio by the front steps, beside a bench, or along a path. Vary the heights for visual interest: tall, medium, and short, just like a little garden orchestra rising up in song. You might even place one beside your door with a welcoming sign or a strand of tiny fairy lights draped around it. And when you pass by them, your heart will feel a quiet lift, not just from the flowers, but from the thought that something so simple, so forgotten, can still stand tall and bring beauty into the world. Because grace, dear friend, doesn't always come from new things. Often it blooms from what's been waiting, patiently. There's an old rake in nearly every garage or shed, the kind with a wooden handle worn smooth from years of use, and metal tines slightly bent from gathering autumn leaves. Maybe the handle's snapped in half, or the rust has crept in with time. It may no longer sweep the garden floor, but it can still serve in a gentler way. Because with just a few minutes and a little imagination, that broken rake becomes a rustic, beautiful tool hanger, a functional piece of garden art that brings order, charm, and history to your space. Start by removing the handle if it's splintered or beyond saving. What you'll keep is the rake head, the fan of metal teeth that once combed through earth and leaf. Give it a light scrub to remove any dirt or rust, though a bit of patina only adds to its vintage appeal. Mount the rake head onto a shed wall, fence post, or potting bench. If the back has holes for screws, you can anchor it directly. If not, sturdy nails or metal wire will do the trick. Hang it at eye level so you can easily reach what you'll store there, no need to crouch or stretch. Now comes the joy of function meeting creativity. The tines make natural hooks perfect for hanging small tools. Garden gloves, spools of twine, or even tiny clay pots with string handles. You could drape a small wreath or bunch of dried herbs over one side, or hang a small chalkboard tag with a favorite quote or reminder like, "Tend gently." Not only does this make your tools easier to find, it also transforms a plain wall into a celebration of old things, still doing what they were made for: helping, holding, supporting. Place a comfortable chair or stool nearby, and this little setup becomes your rest-and-reach station, a corner where your tools, your rhythm, and your memories gather. Because not everything needs to be shiny to be strong. And even when the long handle breaks, the part that holds still holds. Just like us, dear one. Bent a little, weathered, but still offering something useful, still rooted in care. Do you remember those old wicker laundry hampers? Maybe yours held fresh linens or served quietly in the corner of a bedroom for years. The lid might be missing now and the weave a little frayed, but that worn wicker still has character, still has shape, and still has something to offer. With just a bit of care, that hamper can become a beautifully rustic planter base, lightweight, charming, and full of old-world cottage charm. It's a perfect way to raise your garden up to where you can see and enjoy it. No bending, no digging, just beauty made simple. Start by choosing a sturdy basket. Whether tall and narrow or short and round, the size doesn't matter nearly as much as its ability to stand steady. Give it a wipe down to remove dust or debris and inspect for any loose weaving. Most imperfections only add to the texture. If the hamper is hollow and open-topped, you have two easy options. First, you can tuck a large potted plant directly inside one that spills over the rim, like trailing ivy lantana or sweet potato vine. If the base is open or delicate, place a tray underneath to catch water runoff and protect the floor or patio. The second option is to treat the top of the hamper as a plant stand. Place one or several pots on top clay enamel, or even tin filled with colorful blooms or fragrant herbs. You can also drape a lightweight cloth or a lace doily under the pots to add a softer, more elegant touch. If you'd like to get extra creative, wrap the basket with a string of solar fairy lights or a few fabric flowers tied with twine. Hang a tiny wooden sign from the handle, "Welcome Bloom," or simply "Home." Set it beside your porch chair or in a shaded garden corner where it can quietly shine. It becomes not just a container, but a storyteller holding memories of folded sheets and tidy rooms now filled with petals and sunlight instead. And as you walk by, you'll remember, just because something is soft or worn doesn't mean it's finished. Because in the garden of life, the things that held love can always hold it again. Maybe there's an old cabinet door leaning in the garage left over from a kitchen remodel years ago. The paint might be chipped, the hinges long gone, but it's flat solid and waiting patiently for a new purpose. And oh, what a purpose it can have. That simple cabinet door can become a heartfelt garden sign, a gentle message nestled among the blooms, welcoming you home, or reminding you to pause and smile. With no heavy lifting and no complex tools, this project is just right for a peaceful afternoon at the patio table. Start by cleaning the door, removing any dust or cobwebs. You don't need to sand it smooth, the imperfections give it character. If the surface is dark or glossy, give it a light coat of chalk paint or matte acrylic in a color you love. Soft white, faded turquoise, or mossy green all work beautifully against the colors of the garden. Now comes the creative part. Think of a word or short phrase that brings you peace. Bloom Nana's garden still growing, or peace lives here. Lightly sketch the lettering in pencil, or use a stencil if your hands prefer it. Then trace with a paint pen or small brush. You can decorate the corners with hand-drawn vines, pressed flowers, or even glue on buttons or broken bits of old china. If you enjoy texture, add jute twine along the top or bottom edge, or a small ribbon to hang a charm from a hook. Once finished, there are so many ways to display it. Prop it up in a flower bed, lean it against a stack of terracotta pots, or hang it on a garden fence with a small nail or ribbon. Because it's flat and portable, you can move it wherever your heart leads, and every time you pass it, the message will gently greet you. Not with noise, not with flashing lights, but with quiet presence. A soft voice in wood and paint saying, "You are still creating. You are still welcome here." Because even a forgotten door, once part of a kitchen full of meals and memories, can become a signpost in the garden pointing not to the past, but to the beauty still unfolding. And so, dear friend, we find ourselves back on the porch where the breeze is soft and the light has grown golden with the hour. We've wandered through 20 gentle ideas together, some playful, some practical, and all born from things that others might have thrown away. We've turned boots into blossoms, shutters into stories, drawers into beds, and silverware into song. Not with money, not with muscle, but with care and a little imagination. That's the quiet joy of this season of life. You've spent decades gathering, saving, living, and now every chipped cup and rusty rake becomes not just an object, but a chance, a new beginning. Isn't that a lovely thought? You see, aging doesn't mean we stop creating. It simply means we create differently, more slowly, more intentionally, with meaning layered into every brushstroke, every blossom, every gentle choice. Your hands, the very same ones that once held babies' baked bread and stitched buttons back into place, still have so much beauty to offer. Not despite the years, but because of them. That's why I hope as you watch this video you didn't just see garden ideas. I hope you saw little sparks of memory, of pride, of possibility. I hope you remembered that beauty doesn't need to be bought. It only needs to be noticed, nurtured, shared. And I wonder, which part spoke to your soul today? Was it the teacup glowing with candlelight, the shuttered mirror catching garden reflections? Or maybe it was the sound of old spoons singing in the wind. Whichever one it was, I'd love to know. Leave me a note in the comments and tell me which idea brought you the most joy. And if you'd like more gentle inspiration for your garden, your home, and your heart, don't forget to subscribe. I'd be honored to keep you company again. Until then, may your days be peaceful, your hands stay busy with little wonders, and your garden, no matter how big or small, continue to bloom in ways you never expected. From my porch to yours, happy gardening, dear friend.